That moment when you realize your skincare is actually working. That's Rodan & Fields, the #1 female dermatologist-founded skincare brand in the U.S. Designed by 2 dermatologists who don't just know women's skin, they know how to formulate for it. Rodan & Fields, love what you see. Tap the banner or visit rodanandfields.com/Spotify to get your exclusive welcome offer.
WABC New York and 107.1 WLIR Hampton Bays.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam.
On 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Tuesday, March 11th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Just a beautiful day on the way. A lot like yesterday. Sunshine, high 64 tonight and overnight, clear, low 42. And then Wednesday, a little chillier, mostly cloudy, high 53. If you are walking out the door with us right now, it is 43 and clear in Bronxville up in Westchester County, 39 and clear in Boonton over in New Jersey, and it's 44 and a couple clouds right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
The search continues for a mom who left her dead child at a Brooklyn hospital. A mix of chocolate and marshmallow started the Long Island wildfires. Our neighbors to the north are hitting back hard. What's really up with Wendy Williams? And a Jewish high school student is paying the price for a salute he gave at a concentration camp. All right, let's get into it in a story that was breaking overnight. More than a dozen people injured when a school bus crashed on the Garden State Parkway last night. This was around 8 o'clock, northbound side of the parkway, right near exit 171. That's Montvale, just near the James Gandolfini service area. The bus, which was traveling from Lakewood to Rockland County, it was a group of yeshiva students, was seen on its side facing the wrong way on the highway. Skid marks visible near this embankment where the bus finally stopped. And when that did happen, of course, a number of students injured right away. In fact, we're being told one student may have gone out the front windshield, though we haven't confirmed that. There were neighbors who live near the parkway who heard this crash and went out to see how they could help out these students.
So a head injury, a lot of blood and stuff. It just did not look good. And, praying for, all the families and everybody involved.
The crash drew a large response from first responders. Crews were trying to figure out exactly what took place. No immediate word just yet of why the bus toppled over. The mayor of Montville getting onto social media last night. This is where we have most of our details are from him. He says 13 of the 31 people on this bus were transported to local hospitals. One child is in critical condition.
Outside our window, you could see somebody was being loaded onto the ambulance. It broke my heart.
Now, there was a moment last night, and we'll find out from Joe if this is still in place. A couple of lanes of the parkway were shut last night as police investigated what led to that crash. Of course, as more details come in on the condition of those students, we weren't able to confirm that come to airtime. Of course, we'll pass them on to you. And while we're down in New Jersey, this is just an odd story again that we don't have a whole lot of details, but we'll tell you what we know. A husband and wife were shot in a Berkeley Township home by a neighbor who apparently then turned the gun on himself after barricading himself inside. This was near the corner of Drake Drive and Amherst Beach Road in Berkeley Township. The husband and wife were shot in the home. They were rushed to the hospital. We do not know the extent of their injuries. What we do know is neighbors did hear the gunfire.
I heard 2 very loud gunshots, and I was walking in the street to warn somebody, and the police arrived.
Neighbor's condition not known either, the one who may have turned a gun on himself. We're just waiting for more information from the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office. Out on Long Island, fire officials in Suffolk County say It was someone who was making s'mores that started the weekend wildfires, the brush fires on Long Island, some of the worst they have seen in really years. At a news conference yesterday, Suffolk County Police Commissioner saying that around 9:30 on Saturday in the backyard of a home in Center Moriches, a family had tried to make s'mores over an open flame, but the high winds made that impossible. The winds also caused the fire to spread.
The way that fire started is that somebody was out at about 9:30 in the morning cooking s'mores or making s'mores.
Now, fire crews did come in. They were able to extinguish that fire within an hour or so, but the embers from that fire, they spread and they caused more fires to ignite away from the original blaze.
We have high winds, we have relatively low humidity, and this is what is making our risk for fire being higher.
Yeah, so in the end, the spreading embers caused more than 400 acres to burn. Actually, it's 600 now. 600 acres to burn, mostly in the eastern Long Island Pine Barrens region. Two buildings, commercial buildings, burnt down. And again, they think that's all from someone out in their backyard making s'mores early in the morning on Saturday. Boy, what a tough day it was on Wall Street, closing sharper after recession fears grow among traders. Correspondent Brian Chung says there could be some other reasons for the bad day on Wall Street yesterday.
There's obviously the tariff story, but I do think that some investors will also tell you that maybe this is just an excuse to sell for people that thought the stock market was overvalued going into this year.
Stocks plunged as a 3-week sell-off intensified over concerns about those tariffs and what the impact on the economy will be.
I think what we've seen as the last few weeks is kind of a recalibration to whether or not this tariff policy vis-a-vis is going to be good for the economy.
So the tech-heavy NASDAQ fell about 4%, with Tesla, Alphabet, and Meta among the biggest losers yesterday. When it was all done, the bloodbath yesterday, the Dow was down 890 points. And, of course, then you'll want to watch how the markets were overnight overseas. How are they responding to all this?
President Donald Trump was asked in a Fox News interview if he expected a recession this year. He said there is a period of transition and that he was bringing wealth back to America. But that's worried investors and raised concerns about recession and ongoing policy uncertainty. A number of Wall Street firms, including JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, reduced their respective growth targets, referencing the anticipated effects of restricted trade and immigration policies. Analysts say it's a remarkable shift in mood less than 2 months into Trump's presidency, which was once welcomed on Wall Street, sending stocks, Bitcoin, and the dollar higher.
WABC News Time 5:09. Canada's next prime minister calling on people in his country to stay united amid the developing trade war between the U.S. and Canada. Correspondent Jay Gray reports that former banker, Mark Carney, has been elected the new leader of Canada's Liberal Party, becoming the interim prime minister as Justin Trudeau steps down.
Since he's not a member of Parliament right now, Carney is required to call a federal election. He'll be challenged by conservative Pierre Poilievre, someone President Trump has said that he would have an easier time working with.
In his acceptance speech, Carney said there are dark days ahead for Canada.
A new leader takes control of Canada's Liberal Party, members overwhelmingly endorsing banker Mark Carney, who will become the interim prime minister as Justin Trudeau steps aside. Carney urging Canadians to stay united. Protest at the U.S. Embassy, fans booing the American anthem at hockey games, shoppers boycotting American goods, American liquor and wine pulled from the shelves of government liquor stores, and vacations to the U.S. even canceled.
Yeah, Carney saying, not messing around, that there are dark days ahead.
Dark days brought on by a country we can no longer trust. We are getting over the shock, but let us never forget the lessons. We have to look after ourselves.
Meanwhile, electricity exports from Ontario, Canada to the U.S., they're being hit with a surcharge now. This was promised by the Ontario Premier, Doug Ford. He had announced a 25% increase yesterday.
Believe me when I say I do not want to do this. I feel terrible for the American people because it's not the American people who started this trade war. It's one person who's responsible. That's President Trump.
1.5 million Americans, Michigan, Minnesota, New York, get electricity from Ontario. Ford said if the U.S. escalates, then he will not hesitate to shut the electricity off completely.
I will not hesitate to increase this charge. If necessary, if the United States escalates, I will not hesitate to shut the electricity off completely. We will apply maximum pressure to maximize our leverage. That's why today we're moving forward with a 25% surcharge on electricity exports. For the 1.5 million American homes and businesses that Ontario powers.
Meanwhile, Canadians reportedly canceling their trips to the U.S. as the White House imposes those tariffs on our northern neighbor. I guess there's legitimacy to this. I was looking it up to make sure it's true. Yeah, the Canadian press says leisure trips from Canada to America's cities have dropped 40% in February compared to the same time last year. And they suggest that's from everything going on between the U.S. and Canada. Now, in Midtown yesterday, people in Times Square, New Yorkers, were asked, what do you think if there's going to be fewer Canadians visiting New York?
I think they're going to miss a lot.
If they don't want to come here, I don't blame them. It's going to hurt us, but Canada didn't do anything. It was the United States that started it.
I think it's silly. No reason why they shouldn't travel to America. It's a great country. It's just being angry.
Yeah, it's just kind of ho-hum from those New Yorkers. President Trump says he wants to finish a border wall by the end of his second term. Down in Texas, they like that. Terrell County Sheriff Thaddeus Cleveland says this should not be controversial at all.
President Bush, President Obama, and President Trump, they all built border walls.
Work is now underway for a new 18-foot-tall border wall in a rural part of South Texas, right near the tip.
What they're doing now is coming back with the taller barrier, one that's going to be harder to climb.
Yeah, the Border Patrol said it will replace the current 6-foot guardrails. The chief suggests this will help maintain operational control of the southern border now that fewer people are coming. This should stop even the people who are now still trying to cross the border even today. 5:13 down in Washington, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries expects Democrats to vote against the spending bill being proposed by Republicans.
House Democrats will not be complicit in the Republican effort to hurt the American people.
Jeffries holding a Monday news conference where he says the bill is something he could not support. He says the bill does nothing to protect Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Republicans expected to bring this bill to the House for a vote later today.
It is not something we could ever support. The House Republican so-called spending bill does nothing to protect Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
Now, of course, without a new spending bill, the federal government would shut down on Friday. So this is obviously all negotiating ploy. Meanwhile, more government job cuts are coming at the nation's weather, climate, and ocean agencies.
The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration is cutting more than 1,000 staffers as part of President Trump's mandated federal workforce firings. This is in addition to the about 1,300 workers at NOAA who have already been laid off or resigned recently. Some activities at NOAA, including launching weather balloons, have been suspended over worker shortages. I'm Brian Shook.
Down in Washington, Texas, Congressman Al Green's outburst during President Trump's congressional address last week, which earned him a censure, still not sitting well with some of his fellow Democrats. They're speaking out now.
The story should have been on President Trump. We should have been talking about the Medicaid cuts. Instead, we're talking about our own behavior.
California Congressman Ro Khanna is not only the only frustrated Democrat, Senator John Fetterman. He took to social media this week saying that protest and the way some Democrats acted during that address looked unhinged, and that's not going to get them any more fans.
You know, he's talking about a balanced budget. The House Republican budget actually is adding $2.8 trillion to the deficit. And that's a distraction from us getting out our economic message.
Yeah, he says, you know, all those little protests at the address doesn't do much for the Democrats getting their message out about how they would do things differently. All right, 5:15. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Good morning, Justin Eller.
Good morning, Noam Aladen. And we do start with some somber news this morning for New York Yankees fans. It is now official coming out of Tampa. And Yankees spring training right-hander Garrett Cole will undergo Tommy John surgery. The team announced yesterday, ending his 2025 season before it began and leaving the club staggering from another blow as it prepares to defend its American League pennant The decision to have the surgery, which will sideline Cole for the 2025 season and at least part of the 2026 season, was made after seeking a second opinion yesterday. Cole will undergo the procedure today at the Cedars-Sinai Curlin-Jobe Institute in Los Angeles. In a statement, the club said that, quote, further updates will occur post-surgery. I don't really know what other updates we need other than you're not going to see the guy on the mound for about a year and a half.
How does that work, Tommy John? You get the surgery, obviously, and then how long does it usually take to rehabilitate?
He will be back. Like a quick recovery is a calendar year, I would say, and so it would be speedy, I would say, if you see Garrett Cole throwing at all in spring training of next year, and then you would probably see him at the beginning of next year start to ramp up a little bit, throw around the ball somewhat, and then a couple of months into the season of next year, you might see Garrett Cole make a professional baseball start.
And what is it, the shoulder? Is the arm?
No, it's the elbow. It's your ulnar collateral ligament. Gnome. Yeah, it's this little rubber band-like ligament in your elbow.
And it rips? Is that what happens?
It rips, it snaps, whatever you want to call it, and then they go into your, I believe they go into like your thigh, and they take out a ligament from your thigh, and they replace your UCL.
They stitch it right through the holes.
Right.
They make holes in your elbow.
Oh, that's cool.
Wow. There you go.
And then they take that ligament and they stitch it through the holes and tie it.
How about that?
And then I have one more question.
Okay.
How did Tommy John do after he got the surgery? Do we know? Did he come back?
He pitched 12 more years at least.
He did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, it works. The surgery it transforms pitchers. It really gives you a brand new arm. So there's nothing to say. There's nothing to not say. I guess that Garrett Cole won't come back next year and be better than ever. But again, he'll be 35 going on 36. So 34 years old is a tough time for a pitcher to get their first Tommy John surgery. Some guys get it multiple times, but this will be the first time Garrett's ever getting it in his career. So hopefully you see him come back next year, and he's got this rejuvenated strength. But that's what you got to wait up until next year for.
In the meantime, it just kind of sucks for the Yankees.
In the meantime, it kind of just puts how can you look forward to opening day now in a couple of weeks? I mean, other than the start of Max Fried's career in pinstripes, who now becomes your ace, obviously that big free agent signing, the left-hander. But I mean, as far as the Yankees as a team go, there isn't much positive outlook in terms of a defense of that American League pennant, if you will. So, we will see. Again, the American League is very weak this season, so the Yankees will still have a shot. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 521. Let's go out to Los Angeles. Resentencing hearings scheduled for the Menendez brothers. It'll happen in 2 weeks. The Los Angeles County District Attorney, Nathan Hochman, says his office is not supporting resentencing at this point because of the nearly 24 lies apparently told by the brothers since they murdered their parents all those years ago. Apparently, they've only admitted to 4 of them being lies that they had told. The others they stick by, apparently.
In looking at, then, whether or not the Menendezes have exhibited the full insight and complete responsibility for their crimes, they have not.
Eric and Lyle Menendez serving light sentences without the possibility of parole for shooting their parents to death in the home of August of 1989. They've served 35 years so far. Hochman says in his assessment, after reviewing thousands of pages of prison records, hundreds of hours of video statements, testimonies, and more, he does not believe the brothers really taken full responsibility, and that's why he's passed it off.
The district attorney's office, if it is presented with these new insights, unequivocal, sincere acknowledgments of all the lies they have told for the past over 30 years, we too, in the district attorney's office, will reconsider whether or not we would want to go forward with a resentencing motion. They pose an unreasonable risk of danger to the community, and the resentencing should not therefore be granted.
Now the family, the Menendez family, the ones that are still around, they mostly, minus one, all support the brothers, and they say they should be released. The new hearings, they are set to take place March 20th and 21st, but I imagine those Menendez boys, they were tasting freedom just a couple weeks ago, maybe not so much now. Several Los Angeles police officers have been caught on secret recordings spewing racist, sexist, and homophobic comments.
The LA Times reports the recordings were made over the course of nearly a year, and the disparaging comments are directed at African Americans, Hispanics, the LGBTQ community, and more. The complaint filed alleges Sergeant Denny Jong, who is of Asian descent, leading most of the disparaging talk. It also alleges a lieutenant in charge of that section did nothing to stop it. The LAPD says it is investigating, and it is a top priority. I'm Jim Roop.
WABC News Time 523. We go from Los Angeles to the Middle East. President Trump's special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, is in Qatar today for Gaza ceasefire talks. He says a deal hinges on Hamas leaving Gaza.
There's no logical or rational choice for them other than to leave. If they leave, then I think all things are on the table for a negotiated peace deal.
The first phase of the ceasefire deal had ended back on March 1. Hamas is insisting on discussions to advance the second phase.
First of all, the way these hostages are being kept is unacceptable. We've interviewed all the hostages who have been released. The conditions are deplorable. Many of the hostages come out, they're sick, they haven't eaten, they haven't been given medical care.
Witkoff says Qatar has actually been a really helpful negotiator during this process.
There are other nations in the Middle East who have also been an important part. The Egyptians have been very, very relevant. General Hassan and his entire team, he's the director of intelligence. The Saudis have helped. The Emiratis have helped. It's a total effort.
The Trump administration reportedly has put a deal on the table that would extend the ceasefire into mid-April and lead to the release of more hostages. While we're over in the Middle East, this 12th grade Israeli student getting a lot of attention today after he performed a Nazi salute at the Auschwitz concentration camp during a school trip to Poland over the weekend. The student who was visiting the site with his high school from northern Israel made the gesture right underneath that famed sign, "Work sets you free." Now, who knew in Poland that's against the law? And he's been fined by the Polish authorities $370. Israeli Education Ministry says that student will get more punishment when he makes it back to the Holy Land. Polish law prohibits the public promotion of Nazi symbols, with violations punishable up to 2 years in prison. Did not know that till today. In January, a Dutch tourist was arrested and fined for performing a Nazi salute at Auschwitz, which he later described as just a terrible joke. U.S. and Ukrainian officials planning to hold peace talks in Saudi Arabia this week. President Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, who's already in the Middle East for those ceasefire talks, is optimistic that a deal with Ukraine can get done this week.
I think that part of a mediation like this is to move the two sides closer, to narrow the differences. We've gone a long way to do that with the Russians, and I am really hopeful. All the signs are very, very positive from Zelensky.
Now, this comes as Ukrainian President Zelensky still attempting to repair relations with the U.S. following that heated exchange with President Trump in the Oval Office. Was that almost 2 weeks ago? In that fallout of the meeting, Trump halted military assistance to Ukraine and cut off intelligence sharing between the two governments.
We never shut off intelligence for defensive for anything defensive that the Ukrainians need. So that's never been shut off. What's on the table, what's important to discuss are obviously security protocols for the Ukrainians. They care about that. The territorial issues, the utility plant, but these are not complicated things.
You're listening to one of the most iconic stations in the nation, an American original. Talk Radio 77 WABC and WABCRadio.com. It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam.
On 77 WABC.
Yeah, that's me, 5:37. Good morning. It is Tuesday, March 11th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Another beautiful day on the way. sunshine, high 64. Tonight and overnight, clear, low 42. Not as warm tomorrow, but mostly cloudy, high 53. If you are walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 43 and clear in Bronxville, up in Westchester County. It is 39 and clear in Boonton over in New Jersey, and it's 45 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. Just getting this into the 77 WABC News Center. We were talking about Ukraine and those talks that were set to begin in Saudi Arabia today. Ukraine reportedly launched at least 337 drones into Russia today in what's the largest yet drone attack on the Moscow-Kyiv conflict. This according to the Russian Ministry of Defense, just releasing this a short time ago. It came before the U.S. and Ukrainian delegations were scheduled to meet for discussions today. It is around 12 o'clock in Saudi Arabia right now. Russia set the previous drone attack record a little over 2 weeks ago. They launched, you might remember, this was back on February 23rd, 267 drones at Ukraine in one single night. Don't know what that'll do to the talks that were set to happen today, but of course we'll keep in touch, and as soon as we know something, we'll pass that on to you. WABC News Time 5:40. Let's go out to Brooklyn. I told you yesterday about this 3-year-old boy covered in bruises whose body was dropped off at downstate medical center in Brooklyn on Sunday. It was his mother who apparently dropped him off, her boyfriend in the car. After they dropped him off in the emergency room, they drove away, and the mother has not been seen since. We now know who this 3-year-old is. I mean, it's so upsetting. 3-year-old King Davis was left by his 24-year-old mother. This was about 11:30 a.m. on Sunday. Nurses raced out to see if they could revive this boy. They were unable to do so. His family, King Davis's family, is speaking out. They're begging his mother to turn herself in. That is, they deal with the grief of knowing that this 3-year-old is no longer alive.
I'm the grandmother. It's hurting me, y'all. I don't know what to do right now.
This was your child, nobody's child but yours. And if you loved him how we loved on you, please turn yourself in.
Now, the aunt of this 24-year-old mom who dropped off this 3-year-old with the bruises dead at the hospital, she was speaking out yesterday saying that there is something wrong with her niece.
Sunshine herself deals with intellectual disabilities, and she does not have the mindset to distinguish a lot of what between right is wrong.
Now, the boy's grandmother said she had had recent arguments with her daughter about the care of King, how it was being received. She said she asked if she could take care of the child, but her daughter refused to let her do so. Police yesterday, we could see them canvassing for video, looking for a white car that was seen on Clarkson Avenue near the hospital on Sunday. That is, the family continues to beg the 24-year-old mom, just turn yourself in.
To all the mothers out there who are going through whatever you're going through, it's always good to ask for help.
She was loved. I don't know where she went wrong, what happened. Only 3 years of him being on the world, because he could have had so much more. He could have been so much more.
Think about all the people that could have helped out if she had just asked for help. 5:42, a federal judge has temporarily blocked the deportation of Mahmoud Khalil. He's that pro-Palestinian activist, Columbia University grad, who was detained by ICE agents over the weekend. He's the judge in this case is weighing the petition challenging Khalil's arrest. The judge's decision comes as a couple hundred protesters amassed outside the Lower Manhattan courthouse yesterday to demand the release of Khalil, who's been detained since Saturday.
I am here today because I know in my bones as an American Jew how dangerous it is when the government starts abducting legal residents that they disagree with.
After President Trump posted that Khalil would not be the last pro-Palestinian demonstrator arrested, these protesters said they would not be intimidated. They were carrying signs, no political prisoners in the U.S., release Mahmoud Khalil. The arrest Khalil, who is a green card holder, also prompted the Columbia University to ramp up security measures in an attempt to thwart any other protests. People upset about his arrest. That as these protesters took to the streets yesterday.
I am mortified as an American, as a Jew, and as an alumnus of this institution that you have been taken into ICE custody. President Armstrong, I am concerned that you may not have done enough
to protect Mahmoud.
Talking about the president of the University of Columbia, Public Safety now has restricted access to 3 gates on its Morningside Heights campus, and it's only open to students, registered guests, and alumni. They don't want those protests back on campus. An attorney for Khalil said that he is currently being held at a detention facility in Louisiana, and he has not formally been charged with a crime, so he's calling on a judge, on the courts, to release his client.
This is a preposterous and dangerous extension of that authority. It's basically meant to remove spies, not individuals engaged in human rights activism.
And Khalil filed this petition in federal court, at least his attorney did, Lower Manhattan, claiming that they had no basis for his detention, other than that the federal government is looking to quiet an outspoken activist. Now, last week, you'll remember, White House announced that it was cutting $400 million in grants and contracts for Columbia University after saying the institution failed to fight anti-Semitism on its campus. All right, for 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk and Justin Ella.
Thank you, Noam Layden. We'll start here with the NBA in Sacramento, where the Knicks ran a rough-shot on the Kings. The final score 133-104. Karl Anthony Towns led the contest in scoring with his 26 points to go along with his 9 rebounds. OG Anunoby contributed 24 points, 8 assists, and his 7 rebounds to the New York victory. Deuce McBride was 4 of 5 from three-point range, while recording 21 points and 7 assists as New York snapped a 3-game slide. Josh Hart scored 18 points. Mikal Bridges had 15 and 8 assists, and Landry Shamet added 13 points off the bench as the Knicks played without All-Star Jalen Brunson and his sprained right ankle for the second straight game. Up next for the Knicks, they'll travel to Portland for a date with the Trailblazers tomorrow night. In Brooklyn, Noah Clowney scored 19 points, and the Nets beat the visiting LA Lakers 111-108. Cam Johnson and Keon Johnson each added 18 points for the Nets, who snapped a 7-game losing streak. Tyrese Martin finished with 14. Coming up next for Brooklyn, they'll visit NBA-leading Cleveland tonight for a 7 p.m. tip-off. And it is official now. Yankees fans, they feared the worst, and they got the worst out of Tampa. And Yankees spring training right-handed Garrett Cole will undergo Tommy John surgery, the team announced yesterday, ending his 2025 season before it begins and leaving the club staggering from another blow, as I should say, as it prepares to defend its American League pennant. The decision to have the surgery, which will sideline Cole for the 2025 season and at least part of the 2026 season, was made after seeking a second opinion yesterday. He'll undergo the procedure today at the Cedars-Sinai Kerlan-Jobe Institute in Los Angeles. In a statement, the club said that, quote, further updates will occur post-surgery. To the NFL and more offseason movement around the league, the Seattle Seahawks have found their replacement for Geno Smith, agreeing to a 3-year, $100.5 million deal with former Minnesota Vikings quarterback Sam Darnold. The deal includes $55 million guaranteed. The Seahawks added Darnold 3 days after agreeing to trade Smith, their starting quarterback for the past 3 seasons, to the Las Vegas Raiders for a third-round draft pick. Also, 1 month after saying goodbye to Aaron Rodgers, the New York Jets addressed the quarterback position on the first day of free agent negotiating period, agreeing to terms yesterday with former Pittsburgh Steelers backup Justin Fields. Fields, a 26-year-old, will sign a 2-year, $40 million contract that includes $30 million in guarantees. The former Chicago Bears first-round pick is expected to be the Jets' opening day starter ahead of holdover backup Tyrod Taylor, but this is not to be looked at as a long-term commitment. The Jets, who could also add a quarterback in the draft, can reevaluate the position after the 2025 season. We shall see how Fields works out for Gang Green. That is your Sports Know, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:50. This desperate search is on for a woman who disappeared in Midtown last week after her family says she went to a doctor's appointment for an ear infection. 61 years old, Lilith Marson, last seen on Wednesday, March 5th, West 51st Street. The sudden disappearance is just crushing to her family.
It's really hard. I need some answers. I need some answers. Nobody giving us no answers.
She's easy to get along with, compassionate, and she loves all her family.
We love her. We just really wanted her to be back.
So here's what we know. The 61-year-old went to the doctor's office in Midtown for piercing pain in her ear. She should have returned home to Brooklyn right after her scan and appointment, but has not been seen since. She went from chatting with relatives several times a day to silence. Family says that's not like her. In fact, they went to retrace her tracks after they called the cops to say, hey, our sister, our friend, our loved one has gone missing. And they found that she actually left her phone at the doctor's office. They're trying to figure out, was that on purpose, accidental?
It's really hard. I need some answers. I need some answers. Nobody giving us no answers.
She's easy to get along with, compassionate, and she loves all her family.
We love her. We just really wanted her to be back.
Yeah, so nothing about this disappearance, they say, makes sense. Marson worked as a receptionist in Midtown and kept it as a routine where she would go home after work every day. So far, they have no sign of her. We'll post a picture of her on just the off chance someone recognizes her at WABCRadio.com. Was watching Eyewitness News last night. They had this exclusive interview with one of the women that is accusing the former NYPD chief of department, Jeffrey Madry, with sexual harassment. Her name is Quathisha Epps, and she was an NYPD lieutenant. She accuses the highest-ranking uniformed member of the police force of sexual harassment. And what was a pretty emotional interview. It was the first time we've actually heard from any of these women making these accusations. She said that he forced himself on her in exchange for overtime hours.
This guy is a monster. Who's gonna believe him? Who can I talk to? Who can I tell?
Epps, for the first time, speaking openly about the allegations of sexual harassment that prompted Madry to cut short his 33-year career in the department. He abruptly resigned back in December. This 19-year NYPD veteran says that she had told him that she needed more hours because her two-income household became one during the COVID shutdown, and she needed more money. So she says Madry engaged in quid pro quo sexual harassment and would coerce her into performing unwanted sexual favors in exchange for these overtime opportunities. Here she describes it.
He starts using his weight to push me into the room in the dorm area, and I feel like excruciating pain, and I keep saying, stop. And he just, baby, I'm sorry. I just need it. He says he dreams about it. He just dreams about it. And then my body just kind of went flat. I just trying to lay still and maybe it will stop sooner.
Yeah, Epps says Madry is more than twice her size, had her pinned in a small space. She couldn't move. She says for the next 18 months, Madry would often corner her, she says, when the two were alone. I should point out that Madry, his lawyer, had put out a statement a long time ago saying that this was a consensual adult relationship during a short time while they were both with the NYPD. 5:54, New York City apparently breaking a 30-year record for the fewest numbers of shootings in January and February. They have to go back 30 years. That's what Mayor Adams was announcing at a news conference yesterday, saying that they watched as a 14.5% decline in shootings compared to the same period in 2024.
We are the safest big city in America. So those who have not read the memo, stop saying our city is in chaos and crisis. It is not. The numbers don't lie. Your noise lies.
The mayor says more than 1,000 illegal guns have been removed from city streets during the first 2 months of this year.
We are here to announce 1,000 illegal guns removed off the streets since the start of this year. For the first 2 months of 2025, New York City had the fewest number of shooting incidents in more than 30 years.
Now, this press conference taking place less than 24 hours after former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who, of course, is in the race for mayor, is proposing to hire 5,000 NYPD officers as part of a safety plan if he's elected mayor of New York. He says New York's not safe, but Mayor Adams saying that it is. Cuomo says it won't cost the city a whole lot of money to do so.
Because the overtime is so high. Yeah. You can hire 5,000 new police officers for half the amount you're now spending in overtime.
Cuomo, who leads in the polls, speaking about this, says the NYPD ranks have been shrinking over the years despite the population growing in New York City. He says the current force is just being burned out from all those overtime shifts, and they could fix that by just hiring more cops. NYPD cracking down on illegally parked mopeds in the city. More than 200 mopeds seized by the cops over just the last few days here in Manhattan, up in the Bronx, parts of Queens.
It's something that we're constantly seeing. We're still getting these complaints. These operations go a long way into making sure that everybody's in compliance, so we're going to continue to do them until we get zero complaints.
Yeah, that's the NYPD's Chief of Patrol, Philip Rivera. Mopeds parked at places like bus stops, light poles have been a problem. People have been complaining about this for a couple of years now. Owners of the mopeds will only get them back if they can prove that they are the owner of those mopeds with some form of registration. And we'll end with this story. Over the weekend, Dick Van Dyke, he's 99 years old, and he wanted to take part in a fundraiser for people hurt by the California wildfires. So he did an a cappella version of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Now, boy, this guy's still in great shape. I mean, he's using a cane to get around, but otherwise, he sounds pretty good.
We'll turn everybody today. We'll glide on our motor.
Now, that's him singing.
The envy of all we survey. Oh, chitty, you, chitty, 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 bang, bang, chitty, chitty, bang, bang, we love you. And chitty, 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 bang, bang, chitty, chitty, bang, bang, what we'll do near, far, in a motor car, oh, what happy time we'll spend. Bang, bang, chitty, chitty, bang, bang, our fine fender friend. Bang, bang, chitty, chitty, bang, bang, our fine fender. Chitty, chitty, bang, bang, chitty, chitty, bang, bang, fine fender, chitty, chitty, friend.
That's amazing, right?